designing a business environment that works. And I think that that's something when you think about the design, you can think about it at the level of design of cities, or you can think about the level of design of products. And what happens is we have to see the shift that's occurring, and it's occurring in retail because of the level of competitiveness. But this idea of a functional brand ideal shifting to a more aspirational one. This means creating things that people aspire to engage with. And so it's no longer just delivering the functional aspects, but how can we elevate the aspirational qualities? Again, when we think about making this connection between the users and the company or the brand, we have to start to then question who are the users and what are the value systems we share. When we sat through the jury on the PDA Awards, we raised the questions of the values that we were addressing in that discussion, because values are shifting. Lenovo has decided to redesign all of their products based on a Gen Y audience. They decided this in 2009, long before that audience was actually purchasing any of their products. But this idea of recognizing that people's values are changing, and to deliver relevant things, we have to change with them. They want lots of different things. The digital world has really transformed the way people engage, but understanding more about the things that are more relevant to our users actually allows us to create better products. So, a few case studies here. The first one here is one that a lot of people ask us about at Apple, and we always use this slide because people say, well, the Apple stores are obvious. That today it's been 10 or 12 years, that they're obvious. But when we started, not everyone agreed. Bloomberg was famously quoted for saying that it was going to be a complete disaster. And we didn't know. The night before we opened the first stores, Steve sat at the table and said, guys, what happens if no one comes tomorrow? And at that point, we didn't think that was possible, but he had 2% market share in the category and was betting the life of the business on that step. So the important thing is to realize that it also takes risk. Rather than being comfortable, it means stepping into something that's maybe less comfortable in order to have great success. Fortunately, Bloomberg gave a better article 10 years later, but I think that it was a testament to the idea and a testament to the fact that by trying to do something different, if you're successful, you can have an enormous positive outcome. And because of the time, I won't go into a lot of the details on the stores, but some of these details were about how do you engender this idea of loyalty and trust. If we like the products the same way that they like them in the photographs, we're implying that the brand can be trusted. And so there are many details in the experience of the stores that are important in conveying what the Apple brand is about. The stores are designed to be broken down and recycled. Breaking down that. So the stores, if they ever want to close the store, they can take them apart and break them into their component materials. The idea of the Genius Bar, if we would have called it a service counter, no one would have cared. But by giving it an identity and giving it an experience, it was the thing that people talked about when they described their first experience with the stores. Creating different types of activities for different types of market segments. And then building out these stores to reflect a relationship with the communities that they live in. So the limestone facades in Chicago, or the building owned by the Crown here on Regent Street in London. But in the end, by focusing on the value being associated with the customers, we were able to help create a great loyalty to the brand. And by doing that, they made lots of money. So we try to use the incentives of focusing on the individuals rather than the generation of finance as the driving thing, and in the end, it's a very good financial outcome. Another case study is a client we've had for just as long as Apple. We were hired in the same year by Richard Branson to look at the Virgin airline lounges. And they came to us at this time in our San Francisco office and asked us to do an interior design for one of the lounges. And we said, that's great, we'd love to do that, but it would be good to think about the lounge as part of a bigger story. That the lounge represents just something within the line of when people think about traveling to when they get to their destination and to when they return home. And so they thought that was an interesting idea, but please still design the lounge. So they didn't quite know what that meant, but what came out of it was really a rethinking of the program of what a lounge should be. So rather than a desk with a power outlet or a chair with a power outlet, it became something more. And so the idea of introducing better food service and introducing better drinks and hospitality into the experience, and showers and places to read and places to be quiet. And that's really turned into the entire Virgin program. This is the lounge in Heathrow. If you ever travel Virgin, it's a good place to stop. But people go to the airport 3 hours before they fly, so they can have a free meal and they can relax. Some people get their hair done. There's a number of things you can do here now. But the idea with it is to recognize that there was this unique opportunity to distinguish themselves. And for Virgin, they're competing in a very crowded category. And how do you stand out in a category where you're not going to have the best financial opportunity? And so this has been something that they've engaged us with in many ways. They were looking at buying some A380s. They asked us to think about what's a Virgin experience on an A380? How can the design distinguish the brand on the aircraft as well? And we focused on the usual things, but we also wanted to make sure that we looked at other possibilities. And so this was my favorite was a stadium seat theater at the back of the aircraft. So if you're watching a film on a Virgin flight, you get a film experience as opposed to a small screen. And this was kind of absurd and was difficult to do, but it really pointed out to them that they could rethink the way they imagine entertainment on an aircraft and come at it from a different perspective. They asked us to then look at some gaming. We had proposed some gaming on the aircraft. They asked us to look at doing a casino in Las Vegas, and this was skinning a building with a series of fins that gather energy during the day and become a digital billboard at night. So keeping this kind of transitory effect and being able to skin an existing building. How you arrive there from the spaceport, and what are the different types of activities. That led to having us then explore hotels, and so we started thinking about what a Virgin hotel experience could be like, and how maybe the corridors could speak to you. So rather than hanging a tag on your door, you can actually send messages and start to communicate with others in the place. And so again, these are things that we continue to do with them, but I think here's a case of a brand that understands that by distinguishing the experience, they really can create a competitive advantage. And then this third case study is for Citibank. One of the reasons that I came to Singapore originally was working on the Citibank Smart Banking program. And this is something that we began with Jonathan Larson, who was here as country head, and started to really look at different ways of engaging banking. And we wanted to really look at this as holistically as possible, come at it from all the potential touch points, and to look at creating a different ecosystem, changing the posture that banks typically have with people. So rather than having one sort of temple of banking that everyone has to go to, this is about putting touch points in places that matter more to people. And of course, one of the outcomes of this is the Orchard Station branch, which has now become their most successful branch in history. But what it did was it allowed Citibank to change the way that they were perceived as well. So they may have one banking license in Thailand and two in Malaysia, but they were able to, through this system, be perceived as being much larger than they were. So they become essentially the foreign bank choice as an option in many of these countries. And by spending the same amount of dollars, distributing them over different scale touch points, they've been able to put more presence in a market than they would otherwise have been able to do. So it changes the forms, and it changes the types of interactions that you can have. And it affects the types of functions then that they can deliver in different locations. And rather than offer every function in every location, we chose to edit and to focus on the majority of activities that people need in banking. And so hopefully that's creating more relevant conversations, and it's creating more personal types of interactions for them. And these are the pilots that were done originally in Japan. So we did a whole pilot program before it became a regional program, and then it became ultimately their global program. But it was everything from the applications and the digital interactions to the physical interactions. And when we did the pilots in Japan, when we started, Citibank was 57th in customer satisfaction. We didn't know there were 57 banks in Japan, actually. But they ended up moving to first in customer satisfaction as a result of focusing on that relationship. And now Smart Banking program is as I said, is rolling out to be their global program. And I think if you think of this as purely applicable to products and companies, then I think, for us, we would argue that it applies as well to architecture and in effect to city planning. This is a project for the Oslo Museum of Art that we competed for. We didn't win the project, but I thought it was interesting to show because of the scale and magnitude of this project in the city of Oslo. We wanted to really think about the experience of viewing art in a different way. And this is something that I think is an approach that we're bringing to architecture that I think we can start to really have a big influence on the experience that people have. We also were lucky to win this competition that was sponsored by Architectural Record in the U.S., targeting housing based on Hurricane Katrina and the hurricanes that we've been seeing, of course, in the Philippines and other places around the world. Being able to think about this problem in a different way is something that we think is quite interesting. We developed a scheme for them that enabled there to be prefabricated housing that provided both jobs and architecture for them. This is a modular prefabricated system that goes into a large concrete armature. But the idea with this was really about responding to the unique conditions of New Orleans, the housing typologies of the city, and getting people out of a risk zone that's inundated with water on a frequent basis. And then we were fortunate enough to be selected for the Venice Biennale, and were able to represent the U.S. In the Biennale. And then this last project is one that competition that we won for a learning center, and this was in Hawaii. The project was sponsored by the Nature Conservancy, and in the U.S., about 60% of the species that are lost annually are in Hawaii. And so this was about teaching children about reforestation and basically giving them the tools to regerminate the plants that are being lost. And then as families, they take weekends and go into the woods and basically replant. So an education system, the project had to be entirely sustainable, so it's built out of recycled concrete. It's using solid roofs and photovoltaic energy, and basically it's an off-the-grid education center. So for us, it means that we kind of have to stop thinking about making sustainable buildings and start to think about sustainable living, moving from smarter cities to a smarter life. We have to recognize that an idea is not innovation. I think there's a common misconception about that. But an idea is just the start of something. And innovation comes when people actually adopt it and people engage with it. That's when it really becomes important. And for us, an important piece, and this is, with respect to Louis Sullivan, you know, that emotion is something that exceeds form and function. Form and function is almost a baseline today. We have to have that. But the emotion part, you remember a great friend, you remember a great meal, you remember a great city because of the emotion it created, you know, within you. And we have to continue to think about how to deliver that.